The fire crackled beneath the fading evening sky, painting the night with flickers of orange. Light as the chill of the wild, planes began to settle. He sat close to her, the brim of his cowboy hat shading eyes that had seen too many battles, too many trails, and too many scars carved into his soul by time. She was different, quiet, strong, the kind of woman who didn't flinch when the wind howled through the trees or when silence pressed in too close. Wrapped in a heavy cloak, she looked down at the flames, her thoughts hidden, but her presence was louder than any word. He had asked the question not out of boldness, but out of uncertainty. His voice had cracked with the weight of a man who had never truly allowed himself to want something or someone this much.
Too big?
He asked, his eyes holding a fear that wasn't about strength or size, but about the enormity of what he felt. He feared overwhelming her, scaring her away with the intensity of his heart, his past, his desire to give everything at once. She didn't look at him immediately, only let the firelight dance across her face, softening the sharp edge of her jaw, catching in her lashes, making her look like something carved out of the night itself. Then slowly she turned, her lips curving into a smile so faint yet so powerful that it pierced through every wall he had built inside. "Then take your time," she whispered, her voice husky, not with shyness but with certainty. A woman's quiet command that carried both softness and steel. "Fill me slowly so I'll never forget you." Her words weren't just about the moment. They were about everything. The way love could rush in and burn like wildfire, leaving destruction in its wake, or the way it could seep slowly, like rain into thirsty earth, making roots grow so deep they'd last beyond storms. He understood then that this wasn't about a fleeting fire. This was about permanence. His hand, calloused from years of rope and reins, reached out slowly, brushing against her knuckles, testing if she'd pull away. She didn't. Instead, she let her fingers slip into his, their touch sparking a heat no fire could match. The woods around them seemed to hush, as if the entire world leaned in to listen. They didn't need hurried words or empty promises. Their silence spoke volumes, the silence of two souls recognizing one another in the dark, choosing to linger rather than flee. He had seen too much loss, too many endings, but for the first time, he felt the possibility of something endless. She felt it too. She could see it in the way he looked at her. Not as if she were fragile or fleeting, but as if she were the last truth in a world full of lies. And so, under the stars that began to pierce the heavens, they sat, two souls by a fire, speaking in fragments, yet saying everything that mattered. The morning came gently, but with it came the test of whether what had been, whispered by the firelight, would survive. The harsh daylight. The sun rose over the horizon, spilling gold across the open land, and he found himself awake before her, watching as the warmth touched her face. She looked peaceful, yet strong, even in sleep, as if the earth itself had shaped her for moments exactly like this. He thought about the question again. Too big? And realized he hadn't been asking just about himself. He had been asking about the burden of his past, the size of the scars he carried, the enormity of the life he lived, ranch life with its unforgiving demands, loneliness, which had been his only true companion for years, the fear that a heart once broken could never be trusted again. When she stirred awake, her eyes met his instantly without hesitation, as though she'd been aware of his gaze the whole time. She smiled, a slow, knowing smile that settled every storm inside him. "What are you thinking?" she asked, stretching slightly beneath the weight of her cloak. He chuckled low, the kind of sound that came from a man who rarely laughed anymore. "Just wondering if last night was real," he admitted. She pushed herself up, tucking her hair back under her hat, and looked him straight in the eye. "It was real," she said simply, "and it'll stay real if we choose it." Her words struck him harder than any bullet he'd faced. Choice, that's what it all came down to. He had always believed fate was a merciless thing, that life on the range didn't allow room for tenderness or forever. But here was this woman, telling him that forever wasn't about luck or destiny. It was about deciding, day after day, to stay, to give, to grow. She stood brushing the dust from her cloak and reached her hand out to him. He hesitated only for a moment before placing his rough palm into hers. The gesture was simple, but it felt like surrender, and salvation. As they walked back toward the ranch, the fire they had left behind still smoldered, smoke curling into the sky like a promise that something had begun, something that wouldn't be easily forgotten. They spoke little, but they didn't need to. Every glance, every touch of their hands, every step they took together was a chapter being written in silence. He no longer feared being too big or too much. She had shown him that love wasn't about holding back or being less. It was about giving fully, but with patience, with care, with the kind of slowness that carved permanence into the soul. When they finally reached the edge of the ranch, she stopped, turning to face him with the same quiet certainty as the night before. "We don't have to rush," she said. "We just have to keep choosing each other." And for the first time in his life, he believed that choosing could be enough. The cowboy, who had once feared the enormity of his own heart, now knew that what mattered wasn't how big the love was, but how deeply it was given, how slowly it was nurtured, and how unforgettable it could become when shared with the right soul.